I wanted to speak today about serving the world for what it is and not letting the world distract. So most of us think that the world is the world, and it's what we see, and it's what our five senses touch and know and everything. That's the world. And that's what everything is, and that's what matters, and that's what we're supposed to get better. Supposed to get better. And that we do spiritual practice to get it better. But the truth is, spiritual practice is to get to a point where we're not distracted by the world. The world doesn't distract us anymore, and we are actually spending our time focused on God, on love, on the truth. So God is not a means to our ends. But that is what people want to make him. So, fine, we'll do it my way, is what we tend to do. So we're having a power trip with God. And the playing field of that struggle is the world. And our responsibility is to wake up and see, no, that's not. The world is the world. The world is what the world is. So all of you know that I love the writings of Saint Simeon, and I quote him a lot. 8 months ago, the tomb of Simeon was destroyed. It was bombed. And it was bombed by Russians. Where's the tomb? Syria. And someone we were with asked, but it's a Christian site. Why would they destroy that? And I said, to break down, to break the will of the people. And you go, why would they want to break the will of people? But that is what it's about. What's the best thing? If I want to control you, what am I going to do? I'm going to break your will. Breaking the will. For me, Simeon is in my heart. So someone can destroy the bricks and mortar, but they can't touch my heart. And that's the whole thing. So, is Simeon in the world? No. He's where he's supposed to be and always was. And our responsibility is to, you want to break the bricks and mortar? But you can't break my will, my heart, my soul. So our job is not to get distracted, to miss the point. And what's happening in the world is there's a lot of encouragement for hopeless, fearful, helpless, anxious, distrustful, Truth is the enemy. Feelings, cynicism, fake, and conflict. Talk about a distraction. That's all a distraction. That's all missing the point. But if I know I can convince you that things are hopeless and helpless, in control? In control. So if somebody else, because what I am teaching in here is not helplessness and hopelessness, but that it's incredibly, oh my God, everything is hopeful, truthful. I'm all about transparency. I am all about love with a capital L. And so if somebody wants to be in conflict with me, or they want to have some power in the world, and they're committed to their hopelessness, their helplessness, their fearfulness, their anxiety, they're going to then look to be in conflict with me. And they're going to also look for allies. They look for people to join forces. So if everyone knew that in here it was helpless and hopeless, and this was the only place that someone else saw as a place of freedom, openness, but it was now helpless and hopeless, then everybody could then be helpless and hopeless. It encourages total helplessness, hopelessness, and so we're not going to then stand up. We're not going to have agency. It's not worth it. We're not going to protest. It's not worth it. We're not going to find our own voice. It's not worth it. We're not going to find our own hearts. It's not worth it. And so the destruction of Simeon's tomb would have been successful. But from where I sit, no. And I may be the 0.000000001%, but I'm sticking to my guns. And that's the way it goes. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it's chapter 7, verse 16. The virtuous ones who worship me are of four kinds: the man in distress, the seeker for knowledge, the seeker for wealth, and the man of wisdom. And Radha Krishnan says, the afflicted, those in distress, who have suffered losses, are one class. Those who are desirous of wealth, who wish to improve their material position, are another. The third group are devout and upright and wish to know the truth. They are on the right way. And the fourth are the Yanis, they who know. So we each have to look at ourselves and say, where do I fit in here? What's my purpose? Am I miserable? And that's the only reason I'm doing spiritual practice. I want the world to change and be better for me. Do I want to make money? And if I know that if I am righteous in some way and a seeker in some way, I will get wealth. A lot of people look at spiritual groups even and say, oh, well, they're very wealthy. They must be on track, which is really an oxymoron, by the way. Do I just want to intellectually understand everything? Or do I want the truth? And at different times, we can be in different places, in different ways. But we need to know where we are. And we need to know how we are approaching our practice, our lives, and how we are assessing what we see in front of us based on where we are. If I'm miserable and all I want is my misery to be taken away, do I want just a magic wand? Am I now a petitioner to God? Or am I going to accept that whatever God does, He does for good? And so here He is, offering me something that is absolutely bespoke. Because that's what it is. It's bespoke for me to get to Him. None of us has anything that isn't absolutely perfect for our path to God. And yet we gripe and complain and like to be hopeless, fearful, helpless, anxious, distrustful. I don't want the truth. Cynical. It's fake. Practice is fake. This is fake. And we just do conflict. And let's not forget I'm wallowing in my feelings. So, Yaneshvar also does a commentary on the kinds of seekers. And this is what he says. He's less nice than Radhakrishnan. Besides these, and he said it's the virtuous ones, this is from the Bhagavad Gita, the virtuous ones who worship me are of four kinds, remember. The man in distress, that's the man in misery. The seeker for knowledge, the seeker for wealth, and the man of wisdom. Besides these, there are many others who have forgotten their true selfhood, having become possessed by the evil spirit of egoism. They have forgotten the garment of a well-disciplined life, have lost all sense of shame about their future state of degeneration, and they perform actions prohibited by the Vedas. They abandon the very purpose for which they have entered into the life of the body. On the main streets, they gather an assembly of varied emotions in order to satisfy their craving for the vain prattling of egoism. I kind of feel like I'm now at the basilica, because that's what it felt like. It is needless to say that having been swallowed up by illusion, they are unable to remember the wounds of sorrow and affliction. Therefore, they fail to find me. Hear now the 4 ways in which these worship me and seek to increase their own spiritual welfare. The first should be called those who suffer. The second are said to be the seekers after knowledge. The third are known as those who crave for wealth. And the fourth are the wise. Of all these, the sorrowful ones worship me on account of their sorrow. The seekers after knowledge for the sake of knowledge, and the third desiring to gain wealth. The fourth, however, are not impelled by such motives. Know the wise, therefore, to be true worshippers of me. And it goes on to say, of these, the wise one, who is ever in constant union with the divine, whose devotion is single-minded, is the best. For I am supremely dear to him, and he is dear to me. That is the Bhagavad Gita. And Yaneshwar says, by the light of his wisdom, the darkness of separateness is removed, and then he becomes fully united with me. Nevertheless, he remains still my devotee. But the strange thing is that, as to the eyes of many, a crystal may for a moment appear to be water, so the wise man seems to them separate from me. Just as when the wind ceases to blow, it no longer appears to be separate from the sky, so is that devotee certainly united with me, though his individuality as a devotee remains the same. When the wind moves, it appears distinct from the sky, and yet the sky remains as it was. So also, while acting in the body, he appears to be worshiping me, but having attained to self-realization, he is one with me. Through the dawning of wisdom, he knows me to be his self. I, too, joyfully regard him as myself. Having reached the state that is beyond the individual self, is one who performs actions in the world different from me, owing to the separateness of his body? No. And this is what we've been talking about. The vehicles are not who we are. We drive in vehicles. We are not our vehicles. So until we are willing to consciously, consistently be an advocate for freeing our own selves from ourselves, from our misery, from our delusion, we're sunk. We are sunk.